San Francisco, Spanish for St. Francis, was founded on June 29, 1776. Colonists from Spain established Presidio of San Francisco at the Golden Gate and Mission San Francisco de Asís, named for St. Francis of Assisi, a few miles away. The California gold rush of 1849 brought rapid growth, making it the largest city on the West Coast at the time. San Francisco is a very popular tourist destination and attracts people from all over the world. San Francisco is also home to many horrifying murders and happenings. In this video, I will share with you 3 true San Francisco horror stories. On January 8, 1902, a man who gave his name as C.B. Hawkins leased an empty house on San Francisco's Sutter Street. He paid a month's rent in advance. He then visited a furniture store where he bought just enough to temporarily furnish one room. He had an odd demand. His purchases had to be delivered that very night, or the deal was off. The store owner was surprised and not terribly pleased by these terms, but not wanting to lose the sale, he agreed. The next day, Hawkins went to another establishment, purchasing a second-hand bed and a cheap chair. He had the furniture arranged in a small room in the back of his new home's second story, leaving the rest of the house empty. Everything was ready. On January 10th, a 15-year-old girl named Eleanor Fuller, who went by Nora, answered a job advertisement she found in the San Francisco Chronicle. Young girl to take care of baby, good home, and good wages. The next day she received a postcard from the man who placed the ad, who gave his name as John Bennett. He asked her to meet him at a local restaurant at either 1 or 6 o'clock that day. At 5 o'clock, Fuller left her home to meet her new employer. An hour later, she phoned home to say that she was at Bennett's residence at 1500 Geary Street, and he wanted her to start work immediately. Miss Fuller told her to come home. She could begin her job on Monday. The girl agreed. That was the last her mother or anyone else ever heard from Nora Fuller. For reasons unknown, Miss Fuller waited an entire week to tell the police her daughter had disappeared. Perhaps she would have gone to them sooner, had she known what Nora herself must have realized by the time she phoned. 1500 Geary Street was a vacant lot. The proprietor of a local eatery called the Popular Restaurant later recalled that at 5:30 on the evening Nora disappeared, a man who had frequented the establishment for many years, known to him only as Tenderloin, because that was all this customer ever ate, had told him that a young girl was on her way there, and could the proprietor send her to his table when she arrived. Tenderloin waited with visible impatience for about half an hour, then finally went outside where he presumably met her. That was the last time he had been seen at the restaurant. Fuller's disappearance remained a mystery for a month until the lease expired on the home that C.B. Hawkins had rented. On February 8th, an inspector for the real estate brokers who owned the house came by to make sure it was in shape for the new residence. It all looked quite in order until he looked into the small room on the second floor. On the second-hand bed Hawkins had purchased was the naked body of a dead young woman. She had been raped, strangled, and frightfully mutilated. Nora Fuller had finally been found. This story takes place on Moss Beach, just southwest of San Francisco. The year was 2001. It was late on a foggy Christmas Eve at the Moss Beach Distillery, and Melissa Vega and her coworkers were ready to go home after working a busy night, waiting on holiday revelers. But there was still work to be done. Closing the restaurant down for the night wasn't Vega's favorite task, especially when she had to go into the dry storage room on the bottom level of the restaurant to restock wine bottles. She always had an overwhelming feeling down there that someone else was in the room with her, even though she was the only one there. Usually, she would take a coworker with her. But tonight was different. Everyone just wanted to go home for the holiday, to be with his or her family and friends, so they divvied up the work, hoping to get everything done for closing as quickly as possible. Vega went downstairs to the storage room, the part of the restaurant that used to be a speakeasy where rum runners sold illegal booze to thirsty clients during the years. She opened the door to the small, narrow room and turned on the light. Bending down in front of the shelves, she began pulling the wine bottles off the bottom shelf. As she worked, a strange feeling of fear crept up and over her back, tingling her head and arms. It felt like someone was in the tiny room with me, she said. I was still for a moment, wondering why I felt so uncomfortable, when all of a sudden, I felt a stroke on the back of my head and neck. It felt as if someone was stroking my head and neck, telling me that everything was okay. She screamed out, "Stop!" She knew whom she was talking to. It was the Blue Lady, the legendary ghost trapped within the confines of the Moss Beach restaurant, an outside patio area on the bluffs, trying to recapture the romance and excitement of the speakeasy years. She's teased and spooked other coworkers and even restaurant patrons, but always left Vega alone, up until that one Christmas Eve night. I had been working at the distillery for about 4 years at that time, and the Blue Lady had left me alone up until then, probably because she was respecting the fact that I am pretty scared of ghosts and the afterlife in general. It was as if the Blue Lady was trying to comfort me because I was so scared to be down there by myself. Nevertheless, it scared me even more. She has always been very respectful as far as backing down and letting me be for a long stretch of time after that. Still, for the 14 years she worked at the Moss Beach Distillery as a waitress, then bartender, and now as the restaurant's sales and marketing manager, Vega always had the overwhelming feeling that someone else is in the room with her, even though she's the only one there. Many of my experiences happen when we are closing down late at night, said Vega. One night, she was tapped on the shoulder and moved out of the way, thinking it was another employee needing to get by. When she turned around, nobody was there. The story of the Blue Lady began more than 70 years ago. According to the Coastside legend, a beautiful young woman met a handsome, dangerous man by chance and fell in love with him. This sophisticated ladies' man was, say some, a piano player in the bar. The naive young woman, always dressed in blue, she was already married to another, but her unsuspecting husband never knew of the illicit affair. She made many trips to the restaurant to be with her lover. The beautiful lady in blue was reportedly murdered, stabbed to death, while walking on the beach below the restaurant with her lover. He was assaulted as well, but survived. Her lover was never seen again. Since then, many strange events have been documented that cannot be explained, such as mysterious phone calls with no caller, levitating checkbooks, locked rooms from the inside without any other means of entry, women diners losing one earring, with several of the earrings found in one place weeks later, unexplained dates being tampered with in the restaurant's computer system, sightings by small children, sightings of a ghostly man sitting in the restaurant's office, and unexplained images of a lady in a wide-brimmed hat captured in photographs. Susan Broderick, the Moss Beach Distillery's bookkeeper for 9 years, remembers a few years ago when she was working late in the accounting office downstairs. She was the only person in the office working late that night. She needed to back up her accounting module, and she could only do that on the computer next to hers, as it was the only networked computer in her office with the ability to do this. She suddenly heard her printer turn on and start printing. I did not click any print commands, and there was no reason for the printer at my desk to turn on and print anything. It was a very spooky moment for me, said Broderick. She walked back to her desk and picked up the piece of paper that had just finished printing. It was a picture of a tiny heart. That's all that was on the page. The restaurant's floor manager, Debbie Goldfarb, also has a story. I was sitting at the hostess stand and seriously recounting ghost stories with another manager. We were not just talking about our restaurant, but about other hauntings we had experienced. As we spoke, a clipboard which hangs from a nail not more than 3 feet from where we were sitting began to swing back and forth, clanking the Mardi Gras beads that were hanging behind it. There had been no earthquake. Absolutely nothing perceptible had happened to make the clipboard move. They just don't pay me enough to be a liar, she said. There is a spiritual energy level, she believes, that some people can open themselves up to. It took her 4 years at the restaurant before experiencing it. She was always apprehensive about ghosts and the afterlife, and still has fear around it. But when it's late at night and the energy level slows down at the restaurant, the Blue Lady gets restless. It's here at the distillery when things get quiet at night, especially downstairs, that you feel that the Blue Lady is with you, perhaps searching for her lover. Perhaps the most confounding death mystery of all is one in which a body is never found. That is the enduring horror surrounding Kevin Collins, the 10-year-old boy who disappeared on his way home from basketball practice in San Francisco. On February 10th, 1984, Kevin left early from basketball practice in the school's gymnasium between 6 and 6:30 p.m. One of his older brothers, 12-year-old Kenneth, normally would have accompanied Kevin to basketball practice, but was homesick that day. Kevin was last seen at approximately 7:55 p.m. at the corner of Oak Street and Masonic Avenue, waiting for the number 43 bus. Witnesses reported seeing him at the bus stop talking to a tall, blonde-haired man. He was never seen or heard from again. Kevin's father said once that if he had any means of returning, he would have. His father believes he was kidnapped and murdered. He is still missing to this day.